So here I have the video that I promised in my last video on the subject of ghosts and spooky happenings, which is all about real, true ghost stories from around Great Britain. Now, I did end up going with ghost tales that are specifically from the country of England. Obviously, Great Britain encompasses England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. And there are some really, really amazing ghost stories from Scotland, from Wales, from Northern Ireland and from the Republic of Ireland that I would really, really recommend that you go and check out because they have some really, really good tales. Now, I was born and raised in England, but I do consider myself British rather than simply English because I do have immediate relatives who are from different parts of the UK, including Scotland, Ireland and Wales. So I really should have paid tribute to my heritage, but in researching this video to write out the script, I realised that it's already going to be probably close to 20 minutes with the stories that I've picked just from England. So if maybe you'd want another specific video focusing on ghost tales from Scotland, ghost tales from Wales or ghost tales from Ireland, then let me know by dropping me a comment once you have finished watching this video. But like I said, I feel like it's going to be long enough already, so here are 5 true ghost stories from England. So some of these stories are a little bit shorter and others are a little bit longer, and as I did in my last ghost video, I will be popping little content warnings in at the start of each story just in case there's anything that might be upsetting or triggering for any of my viewers. And if that upsets you, then maybe reconsider your life morals and why. We're starting off near the woods of the village of Bradley, which is in Lincolnshire, and we are beginning with the Black Lady of Bradley Woods. Alleged eyewitnesses have described this ghost as being young and pretty, around 5'6" tall, dressed in a flowing black cloak and a black hood that obscures her hair but reveals her mournful, pale and tear-soaked face. According to legend, she has never harmed anyone and has only ever proved to be a pitiful, if slightly unnerving sight. The story is known to have been told for many generations and was once used, as most of these are, by parents to frighten children. This appears to have been a common practice among parents in the area, and children were warned if they were not in bed safely by a certain time, the Black Lady will get you. One theory that has been put forward about the Black Lady is that she is the ghost of a nun. She appears dressed in black and at nearby Nunsthorpe, now an area of Grimsby, where a convent existed until the Reformation. This theory gives no reason as to why the Black Lady should have moved from Nunsthorpe to Bradley, which is 2 miles or around 3.2 kilometres away. Also, although she might be dressed in black, very few, if any, eyewitnesses have described her appearance as matching that of a nun. Another possible explanation is that the Black Lady was a spinster who lived a life of isolation in her cottage in the woods, far enough away from the village. If village children had come across a woman living on her own in the woods who became angry when her privacy and solitude was breached, then imaginary tales of witchcraft could have exaggerated the legend. But neither of these possible theories tie in with the folklore, which is as follows. During the War of the Roses, or alternatively the Barons' War, a young woodsman and his wife lived with their baby son in a cottage in Bradley Woods. Eventually, the woodsman left his family to fight, leaving his wife to bring up the baby alone. After many months, there was no news of the woodsman. Every day she held her child and walked to the edge of the woods, awaiting for the sight of her husband coming home from the wars, until one day the enemy army crossed the Humber and marched through the area on the way to attack Lincoln. As she was leaving her cottage, the woman was set upon by 3 horsemen who brutally attacked and assaulted her before snatching her baby boy and riding off laughing into the woods. Heartbroken and humiliated, she wandered the woods searching in vain for her child and husband. After her death, people began to see her still wandering the woods, continuing on her never-ending search. Why are so many ghost stories so sad? Next, we're moving on to a ghost story that ties in with possibly one of the most famous ghost images of all time from England, and that is the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall. So this is a ghost that reportedly haunts Rainham Hall in Norfolk in England. It has become one of the most famous hauntings in the United Kingdom when photographers from Country Life magazine claimed to have captured its image. The Brown Lady is so named because of the brown brocade dress that she allegedly wears. So, according to legend, the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall is the ghost of Lady Dorothy Walpole, who lived in 1686 to 1726, the sister of Robert Walpole, who is generally regarded as the first Prime Minister of Great Britain. She was the second wife of Charles Townshend, who is an English Whig statesman known for his violent temper. The story says that when Townshend discovered his wife had committed adultery with Lord Wharton, an English statesman and politician known for his debauched lifestyle, he punished her by locking her in her rooms in the family home, Rainham Hall. However, according to English aristocrat, writer and poet Mary Wortley Montagu, Dorothy was in fact entrapped by the Countess of Wharton. She invited Dorothy over to stay for a few days, knowing that her husband would never allow her to leave, even to see her children. She remained at Rainham Hall until her death in 1726 from smallpox. Small shout out that one of the greatest horrors of our time is not vaccinating and thus allowing previously eradicated diseases to come back. Please, please, please vaccinate your children unless they are unable to be. The first recorded claim of a sighting of the ghost was by Lucia C. Stone concerning a gathering at Rainham Hall in the Christmas of 1835. Stone says that Lord Charles Townshend had invited various other guests to the hall, including a Colonel Loftus, to join in the Christmas festivities. Loftus and another guest named Hawkins said they had seen the Brown Lady one night as they approached their bedrooms, noting in particular the dated brown dress that she wore. The following evening, Loftus claimed to have seen the Brown Lady again, later reporting that on this occasion he was drawn to the spectre's empty eye sockets, dark in the glowing face. Loftus's sightings led to some staff permanently leaving Rainham Hall, which honestly, fair. The next sighting was in 1836 by Captain Frederick Marryat, a friend of novelist Charles Dickens, obviously author of Oliver Twist and Great Expectations, and the author of a series of popular sea novels. Marryat requested that he spend the night in the haunted room at Rainham Hall to prove his theory that essentially the haunting was a big hoax invented by local smugglers anxious to keep people away from the area. However, he had an encounter with the Brown Lady on his third and final night of staying in the house, which was confirmed by two men who were with him at the time. He even shot at the ghost, believing it was a real person, and him and his two companions were shocked when she completely disappeared from the path of the bullet, which embedded itself into a wooden door panelling instead. The ghost was next sighted in 1926 by the son of Lady Townshend and his friend on the staircase of the house, who recognised her by her likeness to the portrait. Okay, so moving on to the famous image from Country Life magazine. The story behind it is that on September 19th, 1936, Captain Hubert C. Provand, a London-based photographer working for Country Life magazine, and his assistant Indre Shearer were taking photos of Rainham Hall for an article. Their claims are that they had already taken a photograph of the hall's main staircase and were setting up to take a second one when Shearer saw, quote, a vapoury form gradually assuming the appearance of a woman moving down the stairs towards them. Under Shearer's direction, Provand quickly took the cap off the lens while Shearer pressed the trigger to activate the camera's flash. Later, the developed negative revealed the now famous image of the Brown Lady on the staircase. The account of Provand and Shearer's ghostly experience at Rainham Hall was published in Country Life magazine on December 26, 1936, along with the photograph, which also appeared in the January 4, 1937 edition of Life magazine. There has been skepticism over the years with accusations of fakery, speculation that it might be a double negative, or that light might have gotten into the lens, or that it was an outright hoax by the photographer to sell more magazines, but it still remains as one of the most famous English ghost images of all time. Onto a tale that is short, but maybe not sweet. The Ratman of Southend. If I've had lipstick on my teeth this whole time, I'm going to go feral. Good. The Ratman of Southend is an English urban legend originating in Southend-on-Sea in Essex. The story of the Ratman tells of an old homeless man seeking shelter from the cold in an underpass, who was set on by either a group of youths or drunkards and beaten to near death, with the cold and the blood loss doing the rest to finish him off. As he died, the numerous vermin who inhabit the area gathered and were found to have devoured his face. Yeah, I'm sorry for that mental image too. After this, a ghostly figure was spotted in the underpass, with people hearing rat-like squealing and scraping as if large claws were moving across the walls. It's said that he can still be found there in the dark, but he's not an old man anymore and not quite a ghost either. He is a rat, standing on two legs and the size of a grown man, squealing in the dark and scuttling about every corner, still looking for the people who killed him. I don't have a problem with rats. I know lots of people are afraid of them, but they really don't bother me. I think they're really cute. With the idea of a rat that's the size of a grown man and standing on its back legs, no, I'm good. Thanks. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm fine. I can do without that. Moving on to the Cauld Lad of Hylton. The Cauld Lad of Hylton is said to be the ghost of a murdered stable boy, Robert Skelton, who haunts the ruins of Hylton Castle in Sunderland, which is in the north of England. The events are said to have taken place in either the 16th or the 17th century, and there are several legends of the ghost's origin, which go as follows. One story states that the stable boy was caught courting Baron Hylton's daughter and was therefore killed for the offence. Another version says that the Baron ordered for his horse to be prepared for an important journey, but Skelton had overslept. There are several versions of the following events. The enraged Baron was said to have either decapitated the boy, stabbed him with a nearby pitchfork, or hit him on the back of the head with a riding crop, striking a spot that had been injured and weakened the day before and therefore causing a fatal blow. The Baron is then said to have disposed of the body in a deep pond or in a disused well. Several months later, the body was recovered. The Baron was tried for Skelton's murder but had an alibi. An old farm worker stated that the Baron had ordered the boy to remove a tool from the top shelf in the barn, and the boy had fallen, seriously wounding himself in the process. The Baron had tended to the wounds, but the boy had still died. It is on record that Baron Hylton, 13th Baron, was pardoned in 1609, so this could be connected to that story. Soon afterwards, strange events began to happen in the castle. The kitchen would be tidied at night if left in a mess, or messed up if it was left tidy. An unseen person would take hot ashes from the fires and lie on them, leaving an imprint of a body. Chamber pots were emptied onto the floor. After a while, a cook stayed up till midnight to see who was causing the mischief. He saw the ghost of a naked boy and heard him crying, "I'm cold." The cook and his wife left a warm cloak for the ghost, and the next night they heard, "Here's a cloak and here's a hood, the Cauld Lad of Hylton will do no more good." The ghost disappeared and the strange occurrences ceased, although even now people who visit Hylton Castle claim to hear the cries of the Cauld Lad. The behaviour of the ghost suggests a poltergeist, which is a spectre I covered in my last ghostly related video. Other versions of the tale describe the Cauld Lad as an elf, bargist or brownie who is under a spell from which he can only be released being given a gift. His mischief is intended to draw attention to himself in the hopes that he will be saved. Okay, now all of those were awesome, but we're now moving on to the last, and I definitely think the best. The Battersea Poltergeist. So, Battersea is an area of London, which is England's capital city, and it's surrounded by Fulham, Chelsea, Wandsworth, Clapham and Brixton. While now a hotspot of pubs and trendy coffee shops, in 1956 it was a fairly poor and staunchly working class area. The tale of the Battersea Poltergeist takes place in 63 Wycliffe Road, home of the Etienne family, with Father Wally, a London Underground driver, his wife Kitty, a former office clerk who was wheelchair-bound due to intense arthritis, Wally's mother Ethel and her adopted son John, who was a surveyor in his 20s, and 15-year-old daughter Shirley, who became the target of both a malevolent spirit and the media and the nation's interest. The story is that one night, the family were awoken from their sleep by deafening bangs that were shaking the walls and the floors from within the house. It reminded the family of having lived through the Blitz less than a decade earlier in its noise intensity, and brought neighbours who complained thinking that Wally must be hammering or pulling up the floors in the middle of the night. The same thing happened the following nights, and soon it was happening nightly and even during broad daylight, with the racket being able to be heard out on the street. The family called police and surveyors, none of whom could figure out where the noise was coming from. Objects soon started being moved around the house. Scottish writer and parapsychologist Evelyn Hollow says, "We're talking about a clock floating through the air. We're talking about pots and pans being thrown from a room nobody was in. Rooms are trashed. The house must have looked like a bloody war zone." Witnesses saw bedsheets flying off beds, slippers walking around of their own accords, chairs moving, a pile of tea towels was set alight, and Shirley was even thrown out of her bed with the covers ripped off. Most bizarrely, which sparked the media's interest in the case, the family then started finding notes and letters seemingly written by the ghost, which they nicknamed Donald. I love it, Donald. What should we nickname the ghost that's terrorising our house and making our lives a living hell? Donald. Shirley said, "I heard scratching coming from my headboard. It was horrendous. I'd say, 'Daddy, Daddy, please make it stop.' I didn't know what was happening to me, but everybody was pointing the finger at me. I knew I was not doing this. I'd always been brought up to be honest and never lie. Dad asked me at one point if it was me, and I told him no. He said, 'That's good enough for me.'" Ethel, who was, as you remember, Wally's mother and therefore Shirley's grandmother, was convinced that Donald was an evil spirit and threw holy water over Shirley in an effort to exorcise him. It didn't work. Shirley recalled, "Donald went berserk. The crucifix went flying across the room and her curtains were left in shreds as if someone had gotten a knife to them." This carried on for quite some time, and Shirley says that she lost all of her friends and couldn't hold down a job because of the effects of Donald. In 1965, she and her husband Derek moved to Bognor Regis, where they had a son David, who is now 54, and a daughter Karen, now 52, but Donald followed them to their new house. Shirley told the paper, "He'd leave messages telling me what my parents were doing and tell them what Derek and I were doing in great detail. He would snitch on us." Then suddenly, 3 years later, Donald fell silent. He left a final message with her parents, saying he would leave the family in peace and goodbye. The events clearly left a big impact on Shirley, who the media claimed was Donald's main obsession, and who is actually still alive today. And she has spoken in her older years about the impact and her experience of events, despite stating she also fears that it could bring Donald back. There is actually a full podcast series on BBC Radio 4 about the events, including witness accounts and details from Shirley and others involved, if you would want to know more, because I couldn't include every single detail in this video, or it probably would have been 40 minutes of just that story. I wanted to do the Battersea Poltergeist as my final one because I was considering doing the Enfield Poltergeist, which is another super famous London-based ghost haunting story, but I thought that almost everyone has heard of that one, and I personally hadn't heard of this, and I thought it was really interesting, so let me know what you thought. So those are my 5 ghost stories from around England, and I had so much fun researching this video and I found it really interesting. So please let me know which was your favourite ghost story. Did I miss out any of your favourites? What do you think of the photo of the brown lady? Do you think it's real? Do you think it's fake? What do you think of ghosts and poltergeists in general? Are you a skeptic or are you a believer? And if so, how come? I'm really interested to know. I hope that you have a fabulously spooky season. Please stay safe and remember to have courage and be kind, and may all of your dreams come true, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Why is my laptop always too low? Why do I not find out until I sit down? Come with us and you'll see in this town of Halloween. I'm losing all feeling in my hip flexors. I need to swap. Hello? Hello? Yes, they gave me back my Wi-Fi. Woo! Now filming, just to let you know.